Yeah, well, let's talk about the guys.
Yeah.
You gotta look at it,
Okay.
how well that is, they're gonna be able to load my rates.
Videos and texts. From Chicago.
I'll give you guys my latest business card.
Oh, you're gonna pay
attention.
We've met before.
I'm Joe Scobie.
If you're gonna nap, if
Yeah, Joey's not
you're
on
gonna
the
nap, make sure your eyes are.
committee, Bob.
Right, I do the painting of the eyes on the eyes.
Bob's still on the
You
committee.
do very good at that.
Bob,
Yeah,
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 yeah. And Nancy is too, but she's,
Especially when you have no
Nancy Olson, she's not
responsibility.
here today.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, if I need that, bail me out.
You got it, buddy. You got it.
If I dig the hole too deep.
Are you ready?
Yeah, no, Scott, is he good? I know Scott John's here, but is Scott Shoemaker gonna be here?
Chris.
Chris Shoemaker, I'm sorry.
No, he's out.
Oh,
He's
he
out
is.
today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's not
Too bad. I guess my watch says 2:00.
Mine says 2:01.
2:01, okay. I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. Members Ron DePonte, Joe Schofield, Nancy Hall, Phil Maisy are here. We are awaiting Bob Geppert. John Gregg is on the phone, and Nancy Olson is in Italy, I found out. So we do have a quorum. I think maybe the first thing we ought to take care of is giving John the vote here. I hear a motion to,
I'll move.
Ron moves.
Second.
Ron moves and Joe seconds, giving John a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
John, you're,
Thank you. I
got a
can
vote.
now vote.
You can now vote. You're a real person.
When I can hear everybody, I will vote.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can. Are you guys all right with mine?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
So, I'm still live, let me know.
Yeah, we'll try and give each person a microphone. Okay, the first item is the approval of the May 10th to 2018 minutes. We seem to have difficulty getting the minutes done. We still are awaiting both the June and July minutes, and it takes a little, by the time they write them up, and then I make changes and get them back to Diane, and we go through all this process, it takes a while, but in any event, at least we've got, and managed to get to May. I think you all had copies. Are there any changes, alterations to the minutes as written in the May minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve them as,
I'll move that we approve the minutes for May 10th.
okay?
Second.
Second. Ron moves, Nancy Hall seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved.
This is the May minutes?
This is the May 10th minutes.
You still have July to,
Yes, we still have June or July. I haven't even seen them. It's not good, but you can't win them all. Financial and budget update. Since Nancy is not here, we do not have a financial update. I believe that I had sent you all a message through Diane that there are adjustments to be made to the last budget that we made the adjustments at our last meeting, but they weren't reflected in the budget that was used for the assessment letter that was sent out by the CDD. And if those two adjustments are made, one of them is increasing the basic, what we call the HOA agreement number. We had some things that we adjusted there, and then we're taking the capital reserve down, the allocation to the capital reserve down by $33,000 from 363 to 330. those two adjustments together means a reduction in the budget of about $16,000, which would be approximately $5 a resident. And that would be reflected in the budget that will be presented at the meeting on the 16th of August for approval of the budget, the public hearing. Now, there is one little potential change that Nancy notified me about, and I was hoping Chris would be here today. It has something to do, and I may have mentioned it in my notes, something to do with water for Prado, the irrigation water for Prado that we may have to pay for. Joe, you're giving me a puzzled look, and I don't even know what it is. So we're gonna have to find out from Chris. We can still make changes to the budget, all the way up to the meeting. In fact, at the meeting, we can make changes.
Do we know when Nancy's back?
No, need to find that out. Let the record show that Bob Geppert just joined the meeting. It's 2:05.
Sorry about
All right. So, in any event, obviously, we can't go above the budget that we that was already approved, which was a $95 and change increase for each resident. But we'll see if this other thing causes us to maybe make another adjustment. But at this point, we've knocked that budget down by $16,000. Any questions or comments about that? Ron, at some point, I guess we need to go ahead and come up with some kind of a formal resolution to the board to request that $500,000
Well,
transfer.
that email that I sent that everybody should have gotten a copy of should be the basis for that, I think.
Okay, I think so,
Unless you want
yeah.
something more involved,
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty much it.
okay.
So if you want to use that, that
Yes.
could be the
Okay.
motion.
I'm wondering, did,
It's in here.
is it, yeah, Diane put it in here, didn't
Yeah. Gotta find it.
It was 500,000.
500.
500,000.
All right, I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we need $500,000 to the reserve,
Capital reserve.
capital
Capital
reserve
reserve.
fund from our unallocated reserves. it-
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Nancy makes the motion, Bob Geppert seconds. Discussion on the motion. Any questions, discussion?
I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we discussed this before.
Should we include my email?
Yes, oh, yes.
Whatever we send to
Yeah, oh, yes,
CDD,
yeah.
so that they
Yes.
have a little bit of background.
Background, yes, I think we definitely need to give them
Okay.
background. And I think your email provides
Okay.
that background, so, I will arrange with, Chris to see that gets on the, agenda for the, it would not be.
September.
Huh?
It'll be
Yes,
the
it'll be the
September.
September meeting, it will
Yeah.
not be, and probably just as good it's not on the September meeting, because we'll have budget stuff going on.
There's a few things going on.
Yeah, right,
Do you want to add that's the email of August the 7th, just for records?
yeah, sure. Ron's email of August 2nd, okay. And then Chris can, make up his, motion based on that. Yeah, I think that makes sense for us, and, I think we had all agreed on that in the past.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now we have the association manager and Securitas report, so Scott, I guess it's up to you on
My name's Scott Charnock. If it would be okay, I would like to introduce Bob French with Securitas so he can give an update on what's going on and where we're at in our improvements at the gatehouse.
Good.
Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Bob, if you would just.
Bob French with Securitas, thank you for having me today. Jason is not here today, he's in a training session in Fort Lauderdale, but I've been more involved in the last several weeks. I met with Scott last week, and I've worked with Scott before, and Scott is has strong expectations which are not unrealistic. And I would agree with Scott that we need room for improvement. So we had a good meeting yesterday, last week rather, as to addressing those issues. And we have to come up with a plan to execute them. One of our biggest issues that I've seen at the post has been the staff itself. Having good staff members that follow protocol. So there's been a series of upgrades, including the site supervisor. Mr. Lopez is our current site supervisor that's been assigned to Pelican Preserve. And Mr. Lopez, and also a series of other upgrades. We have 8 full-time employees and 2 part-timers. Some of the long-term employees are still here, such as Judy, and one I think knows Judy, as well as Charles Monroe, which is now full-time. He was working part-time, he's now full-time. So we did make another upgrade this week, actually this past several days, that we made another upgrade. So we feel now that with this upgrade, we have no openings. Now we have to go back and reassess and make sure we have the right folks on the bus. Once we confirm we got the right folks on the bus, then we go back and retrain them to make sure everyone's up to speed on the expectations of the community. We talked about post orders recently again, and I think we worked on post orders it's over a year ago now.
Oh, yeah.
Well over a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
So it's time to always bring that back up to.
I was just gonna ask that question, is it time to do another formal review?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with Scott here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's where we're at. We now need to bring the post orders back up to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what the expectations are. We have to set the expectations for the officers to be successful. So let's go back through that document. Like I said, Scott's plethora of experience as well is gonna help us kind of review what's best for the community as well as the committee to discern what that is. So I look forward to going through that process. Like I said, from the staffing standpoint, I think there's been an immense amount of upgrade that had to be done. There was kind of a dip in our recruiting efforts in the marketplace that lend us to maybe get some folks that weren't the best qualified folks for the job, frankly. So that's been being addressed and finalized. Once again, that was our primary. Our secondaries, we're also going to do a review of the equipment, kind of see what our visitor management system. I'll be out next week with an engineer, with one of my engineers, kind of review the age of the equipment, the performance of the equipment, what works well, what doesn't work so well, what do we need to do, if anything, with the tools that the officers use to be successful. So obviously working with Scott on that, Scott recognized that something certainly needs to be reviewed, and we'll do that assessment next week. Myself as well as Ed Slowey will review that component of it by going looking at the physical cameras, the gate arms, the visitor management system, the tools that they use that make us successful. We'll review that as well. That's on our agenda for next week. Like I said, post orders, we need to begin that process. And then training is an ongoing issue. We need to continue to train these folks and set the expectation and hold them accountable for it. So that's kind of where we get started, kind of refreshing the program per se, and doing all the right things that we need to do. That's it for now that I have, but I will tell you that.
Question,
Yes, sir.
which is kind of equipment related, but Jason had said that he was going to come up with some recommendations for us for perhaps new equipment that we should add to enhance the whole security situation. And will that be going forward as well?
That's correct. That's part of the assessment we're going to do next week.
It's part of the assessment
Yeah,
we're going to do next
exactly
week.
right.
Okay.
We got to look at the age of, I was looking back at some of the, I think our cameras are actually going back to now 2014. The last one we put in was like 13, 14. Well, the beginning of 14, with that time frame, well, we're into 19 almost, so time flies. It goes by quick. So we'll see. If obviously it's working and it's doing its job, then that's great. What else do we need? I think Scott made a great recommendation about voice recordings, right? Be able to record the officers' exchange with our guests. Very, very important. you know, in case there's something we have to investigate or look back at, then we can review that. A lot of times it's more for the security officer than it is for the guest, because sometimes they get combative, but they know that it's being recorded, they won't get combative, therefore they're professional and it's not an issue. We haven't had a whole lot of that here in the community, but I think it's a great piece to look at to enhance our security between our guests and experience, I'd say, between the guest and the security officer.
There was also a mention possibly of some kind of a laser device to alert the officers when pedestrians are coming through, particularly over on the one side where they can't see it, they're facing one side, and the other side they're not looking at. There was some mention that maybe there was some kind of a device that could alert them to.
Very easy to do, very inexpensive, by the way. It's basically a detector, a laser beam that would indicate that somebody's going through the exit or the entry or whatever it may be. Not a big deal, but I think it's very effective to know that somebody just went in the exit lane, or perhaps a car was going in the exit lane, something we need to look out for. But absolutely, something we can do, not a big deal. We can look at the cost, it's minimal, but a great idea though. Great idea.
Comment, should your work group be there interface, security? Maybe one or two of those folks could work with them on the post orders and any other security kinds of issues.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so if there's some community people,
Yeah.
that they can throw ideas at.
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. It's always good to work with a group, yeah, for sure.
One or two guys.
Yeah.
Not to be the whole subgroup, but.
Yeah.
Unrelated, but what's going on with the trap gate? Why doesn't
Well,
it
now,
function?
I was gonna put that under the Safety and Security Work Group report. There are two issues, as you know, that we had the survey included. The survey included a question about whether we should retain the trap gate or not retain the trap gate. And then it also included a question about what we should do as to when we should leave the exit gate open rather than having it going up and down. With regard to the trap gate, it came out almost 50-50. Just slightly more people wanted the trap gate gone than wanted to have it retained.
But isn't that a separate issue? I'm just asking about the functionality.
Well,
It's
what-
supposed to be there.
Well, but the point is that the Safety and Security Work Group is gonna make a recommendation to you that we.
But today it's supposed to be there.
Yes, because.
There's
one
something
of-
coming, and I just
one-
wonder
one of
why
the-
it didn't work.
One of the reasons is because we've been having technical problems with the.
Right, and that's the heart of my question.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with the technical issue?
To be honest with you, I was unaware of that,
Well,
so.
we
I've
made.
asked about
we-
5 times in the last month.
And it has been working in 5 months?
Last
No,
month.
No, we made.
Just so you know, in your packet is a proposal from Cypress, and that'll be part of my report.
Part of-
And we can discuss that.
Okay.
But at this point in time, it's broken.
It's
Yes.
broken, and it's questionable as to, whether we wanna use it anymore. The work group is suggesting that we should.
That's a future, yes, I agree with you, Phil.
Yeah,
But right now, it's supposed to be working, and it's not, and I want to know why it's
yeah,
not.
okay.
Scott will have an update
Scott
on
will
that.
report on that.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, did Cypress originally do the install on that? I don't remember who did the install originally.
No
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah.
Too many years ago.
It's been a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
Too many years ago.
Yeah.
What was the survey last time last time we put the survey out, it was heavier to not get rid of it, correct? I mean, it was weighted heavily not to.
That was like 10,
But
10
that was
years
a
ago.
long time
10,
ago.
12 years ago.
That was
Now
when
it's
the,
not.
that was when
Wow.
when traffic was considerably lighter.
That's
than it
true,
is today.
good point, excellent point.
And so I think that may have influenced it. In any event, it's, as I said, right now, it's a 50-50 call.
Gotcha, okay. Anything else?
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, so I'll see you next week.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back. So now I know where I'm gonna start with my portion of my report. Cypress Access Systems, you have 2 proposals in front of you. One is addressing the trap gate. It needs to be rewired, the wiring underneath the ground has to be replaced. So you have a proposal in front of you for $2,255.19.
right after the minutes.
Yes, right after the minutes. Everybody got it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it will be really up to all of you if you want to, whether you use the trap gate or not. If you have this work done, it will be functional now. If you decide not to use it going forward, you can just leave it open the way it is now. That's entirely up to the security committee and work group and all of you.
And
But this is the proposal.
Yes, I believe that the work group's recommendation really is that we fix and retain the trap gate, but not use it as a trap gate, that it would be a backup gate.
Okay.
Um,
But then all I would need is your approval to move ahead with the work to get it functional again.
So this is strictly for the trap gate itself, that second gate.
Correct.
Second gate.
That's the
That's
only-
correct. And-
For the wiring.
Right,
Yes.
right. And if it fails, it would be available for use as a regular, as a gate.
As the gate.
The gate.
if
Yes.
necessary.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
I'll make a motion, we accept the proposal and move forward to get it fixed.
I'll second.
Bob makes the motion, Ron seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye, okay, that passes 6-0. Okay.
The next item with Cypress Access is to replace the 2 entry main gates on the residence side. They need to be replaced, and that's the proposal for $1,022.68. That's to replace the gate arms, the LED arms.
Why do they need replacement?
They're not working, they're bent up. You know, if you go up there, they're not level, and they're just worn out. So if you want the LED lighting to function, I mean, it's the first thing you see when you come into the community. One of the gates works, one of it doesn't.
Have we ever recovered a nickel from anybody hitting?
Not since I've been here, but Chris,
Not in my experience, not since
No.
I've been around, no.
we have.
Yeah,
Because
but
that,
We need to do that.
every month or two, somebody hits that gate,
Yeah.
for whatever reasons they are.
Well, now,
residential or
if we get a
commercial.
report from them, Securitas, then the association go ahead and go after the individual, as long as we have to make up the car, the license plate. You
Scott,
know, we
we've
can do
heard
that.
that before.
Yeah, and that's.
But as far as I know, we've never gotten a nickel.
Well,
Right.
I'm here now,
okay.
all right?
We
Good
wanna do
enough.
it.
Because they
We
say it's
take
one
your
place in
word
the
on that,
community
Scott.
that is
That's
constantly
not-
staffed.
I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
And if it's a guest, then what you do is you hold the owner accountable for their guest, and you bill them accordingly.
Whatever,
So-
just we're after somebody.
Okay, so this is for one arm, 2 arms?
2 arms.
2 arms, so
Yes.
this is just on the main gate itself? It's
Correct.
2 arms on the main
Yes.
gate?
So that would be actually a resident hitting the gate, or,
Well, that's where I was getting at.
Yeah.
But we never get any money back when they damage our gate.
well, I know where they live now.
Well, it
So-
very well could be a truck that couldn't get through
That's
that
right.
side.
And-
Well, that's possible too.
And
I
again,
don't know who it
it's-
is, but somebody
Well, that-
damaging it, we ought to know it.
And the gate guard should know when it happens.
Exactly.
Yep.
And therefore should be able to identify who did it.
And it really just has to do with a combination of the wrong guards, not following post orders. You know, we mentioned post orders, there's really not a lot to change in those post orders. Really what needs to be covered is that the guards follow them. So, I mean, when we look at it, there's not a lot of work there.
Well, I like the lights, they help a lot, especially at night.
Mhm.
So I think that's definitely an enhancement we should have.
I have a question, I guess, on the lights. I know when I'm leaving on the exit gate, at times, and this happened to me personally, I almost hit it. And I thought, I'm a better driver than that. But the fact was, where the sun was and where the light was, the light, I mean, where the sun was and the light coming at me in the car, I didn't see that gate for the last second. I thought, because it is up over hours and then they put it down, I thought I was still within the hours it was up. And my wife had a few words for me driving. But is there a possibility of getting lights that flash rather than just being on all the time? Because if something had caught my attention, or at least on the exit gate, it's red. If we had maybe a black band that went around it with the red, a black and red, like
Let me
How can we
check
make it
into
better
that.
exposed?
I
That's my
agree with
question.
your wife, though. I think you should slow down. I mean, that's my, that's
You
one
know-
of my, shoot me later, get me later on that
No,
comment.
Scott, you're right, you know.
By the way,
A happy wife is a happy life, and there's no argument. But-
This was a comment that's been made by a number of people. We
Yeah.
were aware that that's a problem.
That can, you're right, it can be
Chris-
because we're going out and you're seeing, the sun's right in your face, so.
Yeah, you're driving
We'll look,
west.
we'll look into that.
But if you could get, I don't know, if it costs this much to get a red strip of light, I wonder if you could get, if there's a timing mechanism, be pretty inexpensive that would just.
This
make
isn't
that
just the
light-
strip, Joe, this is the whole apparatus.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean.
This is,
Yeah, so
Yeah,
let me,
actually,
let me
okay,
check with
good.
them, because now that I'm ordering one gate arm, or the two gate arms, I can check with that exit gate what it would cost to change that.
I'll make
Or
a
upgrade
motion,
it.
we approve the expense.
But I think we need to be careful that if you put something that's flashing, that it's not going to impact any of the residents that might be able to see it. I don't know if there are any.
Let me check
Somebody
into
out in
it.
the
somebody in their
light.
home, you mean?
Yeah.
Or Ravenna, the,
So we don't have another LED lamp.
They shouldn't be that bright. It
Sienna's
shouldn't
on
be
the
that
side.
bright.
It's not.
It should be.
Yeah.
Bob has made a motion that we make the expenditure recommended by Scott to replace the two arms.
I'll second.
Ron seconds it. Any further discussion? I think we agreed, Scott, that if we pass this, that you'll look into what other enhancements we might make possibly to,
I'll take care of that and I'll email it to all of you.
okay, that sounds good. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is,
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Put it in favor of, but I have a comment in reference to Nancy's, thing of the flashing light. There were complaints about when we use the trap gate up and down, trying to think the community, right?
It would be Sienna, probably, or Aviana.
They did have some issues with that, you sit on your patio or where you're sitting, you see the arms going up and down. If you see the flashing light, it could be a concern for some of the residents that see it.
I don't think it'll be a concern on that side.
They're pretty far behind.
Yeah, they're far away, yeah.
Yeah.
And the way the LEDs face, it's facing directly down the street.
Should be, well, something to think about.
Yeah.
When you take a look.
We'll take a look at it.
Make the assessment,
What?
think about that.
I think Brian and Bonnie used to complain about that.
But they did, in Aviana.
Okay, that could
They
be.
did in Aviana.
Could be.
I'm surprised they could see it through the awful.
And they-
Well, location for you.
Yeah, they're quite a distance away, actually, they're way across
Yeah,
the
they're across the
pond.
pond.
Yeah.
And if they did complain, I mean, it's not formally, but they were making comments regarding the lights going up and down.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Scott, you wanna?
Got my work cut out for me on that
Yes,
one.
right.
All right, West Coast electrical lighting. These were the additions that we had to make for getting all the streetlights out on Tree Line up and running. There were some additional electronics that needed to be added, fuses, wiring. And just so you know, these two proposals and the invoices I receive from them, I'm gonna submit to the insurance company for consideration, because this was hurricane damage. So, just so you're aware of that.
Time, clock hasn't run out for that?
No,
Really?
I'm still working with Diane on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of interest, just so everybody knows about this, Diane just informed me that the hurricane damage for landscaping that was submitted to FEMA was turned down because an HOA cannot make that kind of a submittal. In other words, the Master Association did it on our behalf because they do that. Well, it was turned down, so there was $32,000 we might have had a chance to recover, we're not gonna get. So in the future, when we have hurricane damage, we're gonna have to think about how we make the payment. That if it were done by, my sense of it is, if it were done by us, i.e. the CDD, we might have a chance of recovering it. if it was done by the HOA in that particular case, we're not gonna get it back.
And we can't resubmit by us?
Apparently not, it's been turned down.
HOAs aren't eligible.
Pardon?
HOAs aren't
HOAs.
eligible.
Yeah, but we're not HOS, they just, forget the
we
HOA,
are,
but we do it.
But they've already paid it, so government's ain't too bad.
Yeah, that's why it got turned down, it was because it was already
It
paid by
was
the
already
HOA,
paid by the
and we
HOA.
reimbursed you guys instead of the company, so if we would have paid, we could have.
Any reason to say no?
But Scott is gonna be submitting this to the insurance company, right?
Yes, once I get the invoices. So I just need your approval on these, both of these.
Does that take a motion?
Yep.
I so move.
Second,
Hmm?
second.
Nancy seconds, Bob makes a motion, Nancy seconds, the two invoices, that Scott submitted totaling, what's the total, 1960,
About $790.
1400.
Okay.
$2,400.
About over 3,000,
Yeah, yeah.
3,000.
Yeah,
whatever, yeah.
okay,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 6-0, that passes. Scott, you?
The last item I have for you is the repair and replacement of sidewalk sections. One is along Pelican Preserve Boulevard, and the other series of them runs along Ravinia. So this is, I have 3 proposals, and I was hoping that I would answer my question on the low proposal, but I did not. I have one proposal at $8,045, one proposal at $9,850, and the other proposal at $3,487. Yeah, I know, that's, so Zern, who gave us the proposal for $3,487, they have done sidewalk replacement here and grinding. I don't see any reason why not to recommend accepting that proposal, but I'm gonna have to see what we get going forward if we're going to use them. You know, sometimes mobilization costs or concrete companies will escalate their proposal because the projects are small. Don't know if that's going on with the other 2, or the other one just wants back into the community. But they've all done work here before.
Are they all bidding on the same thing, a 4-inch pad, 5-inch, 6-inch,
Yes,
whatever?
all identical.
Can I ask a question though about, the sidewalks at Ravenna?
Yes.
Are those district responsibility or are those Ravenna responsibilities? Because the driveways are definitely Ravenna's responsibility.
These are across the street.
It's between 3S and Monticello.
Yeah.
That's where
It's
I
on
see
that
it.
side?
Yes.
It's on that
The
side.
conservation
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right, otherwise it
Yeah,
would be
it would be
there.
theirs otherwise, but, and it's all because of the live oaks.
I was
Right.
gonna, so Scott, yeah, so is this gonna repeat itself? In other words, is that a problem that the live oaks will, you know, if it is live oak?
The answer is
It's-
yes, and it's not
yes.
the first time we've done it. though.
Yes, and in Florida, it's not if you're gonna replace concrete, it's when. Live oaks is not a good application around curbs, sidewalks, streets, or homes. We have a lot of mature trees, so what we do is we go in, we excavate the area, we cut out the large roots, we reinstall the concrete. But it could reoccur. It's gonna be one of these maintenance items that we deal with.
Is this something that we can talk to, the landscape folks about ahead of time, is cutting those roots before they get to where they're pulling up the sidewalk?
Now, if you get that aggressive with a tree, you're cutting right next to the trunk of the tree, you might as well remove the tree.
Well, that's okay too.
Well,
Should we consider removing the trees?
No, you get
No.
no pricing, everybody likes them.
no. I mean, these are big trees.
They're big.
I mean, it's something that I think we may need to take some time to take a look at and evaluate, because what are you gonna replace them with?
Joe has been working on some of the landscaping issues, and he may have some.
Yeah, first of all, the codes state that the trees have to be outside of a certain right of way, and those trees are planted right next to the street, so they do not meet the code for the city of Fort Myers. Secondly, most streets where they have planted live oaks in the city of Fort Myers, for beautification, they have a requirement that they're 40 feet apart. They're not 40 feet apart either, so they're in the right of way and they're too close to each other. The problem will never go away as long as those live oaks are there. The University of Florida Extension Office, Mr. Stephen Brown, who handles the horticulture division there, has stated that, and he did this at the meeting with Gail Anthony, that if you start cutting those roots, you are going to drastically damage the tree, and it will not have the stability in the ground. It's subject to disease. But, and I know that Adrian, I can't remember Adrian's last name, but the ACC asked if you could put, okay, if you could put a guard there, and the response was yes, but for a tree that big, it probably will not be good because the roots have already grown their natural course. Once you're cutting them, the tree is greatly reduced in stability, and your chances of having a problem down the pike.
Irma took 2 of them down last year.
Hmm?
Irma took out 2 of them.
Yeah, so it's going to be a continuous problem, and from my perspective, the cost to maintain those trees is just going to escalate on a yearly basis the larger they get. And I don't know if anybody's gone to the University of Florida and looked at any of the live oaks they have there, but they're a half an acre tree by themselves. They are going to become huge, and they're going to be, you're going to have to not only watch the damage in the road, the infrastructure, but you're going to be trimming them forever and ever and ever, and the cost will just be escalating. The older our community gets, the more we're going to be spending on them.
And we also have to power wash that sidewalk frequently.
Yes, so
Because it
they're
builds up
going to
mold and it's
be,
very slippery.
the cost is going to go up every year. It's just going to become monumental. It'll be probably the biggest cost we have in the community.
Well, then we'll take them down, Joe.
What-
Now they're pretty.
I was just gonna say.
They are beautiful.
Yeah, what, I mean, what, is there a solution to the problem?
I don't think,
You'd have to cut them down.
I would say we should talk to Stephen Brown and get that answer, but my personal perspective is there is no solution. And taking them out now before they really become very mature and replacing them with something that would be more suitable, which would be not a large canopy tree, but a smaller tree that would still be pretty, give some shade and enhance the community. There's a lot of them there, but I have a list from Stephen on canopy trees and sub-canopy trees. And this is throughout not only what we're responsible for, but all the HOAs are facing the same problems down the road.
But Joe, in forward-thinking new communities, totally agree. This is an established community, and if anyone proposes taking them out, it's gonna kinda look like current Prado and Pistoia, and then they'll fly.
Well, I'm not proposing taking them all out. I'm saying that I think half of them should be taken out and you would never miss them, quite frankly. I don't think you'd miss them at all. I've driven down, there's a community. when
I
you
go
first
by them
come
every day,
in.
I live down there, and I think you're mistaken the output of the residents.
Well, I know a lot of people are very passionate about them. But I think we have a financial responsibility to the community also. And there has to, I think we should look for something that would satisfy everybody at the moment, but down the pike, they're gonna be a major issue. We won't be here when that happens, quite frankly.
Is this the only stretch that has that problem, or are there
It's our
several
biggest,
others?
it's our biggest stretch.
It's the biggest.
Okay.
But some of the communities have problems with them already.
Yeah, well, I know
That's an
Bellagio, we took a lot of
ACC
them out,
issue.
so did
Well,
Portofino,
so
and a
did
few others,
Aviano.
are taking them out.
It's a huge issue with the ACC.
Yeah,
I
residents
think
are removing
at least
them from
every
the
other
properties like
meeting,
these.
there's a
Oh, yeah.
live
These
oak issue that comes up
No,
there.
right.
But we're gonna just see more and more money going into live oaks down the pike.
Joe, then apropos that, maybe, I know you're gonna be meeting with Stephen Brown, or, well, I guess you're
I'm gonna be
in-
out.
You're gonna be out of town, but some people are going to,
Yes.
and you've been talking to him. We would ask you to kind of pursue, his thoughts.
I'll be happy to
on what we
pursue
could
that.
do.
Yeah.
What actions could we take?
And maybe get back to those particular communities specifically and
Do it
explain things
Toscano,
ahead of
Monticello,
time.
Ravenna.
Go to the presidents or whatever, and say, hey, look, here's the situation, we know they're pretty, but You know, we just spent whatever this is gonna be, X number of thousands of dollars to fix this immediate problem. Guess what? Every 2 or 3 years, we're going to have to do the same thing. You know?
I've been here
Whatever.
8 or 9 years under Nancy. This is the first time we're spending money on sidewalks.
But they are getting bigger, so
Oh,
maybe
no,
the
well,
problem will
no,
accelerate. I
the
don't know the answer
neighborhoods
to
though
that.
have spent
neighborhoods.
a lot of money, so it's not a new
But
problem.
Oaks, the principle is yes, but this is a particular stretch that.
I'll make one comment, and I was at the meeting where this was made with Gail Anthony. Somebody, one of the communities down on Tree Line, that's maybe as old as us, maybe not quite as old, spent $20,000 removing live oaks and $60,000 fixing the damage it caused. And I don't remember which community that was. I don't remember who the person was that brought that up, but he was part of the HOA group down there, and he was pushing to get them all.
They're considerably younger than us.
I would think so, but, you know, depending on where they're planted, they're already causing problems in some of the communities.
I don't love live oaks, I'm not.
Oh, I love them. I think they're one of the most beautiful trees with that moss on
They
them.
screwed up my septic system and, you know, I want to get rid of them. You can have more with take these out.
Well, I think one of the things to think about as we go forward with the landscaping company though is to consider that we have a plan, and maybe if Brown can come up with something for us.
Stephen will only make some preferences that we should consider. He is very, very reluctant to get into any of the political situations. He doesn't want to be telling anybody what to do.
No, but you have ordinances, Joe, that said no more than 40 feet apart, and they have to have a
Well,
radius.
yeah.
That's the kind of guidance we need.
And then we have the ordinances that WCI very neatly had written for a special community development district where they violated a number of the city ordinances.
But the city ordinances take priority, so.
Okay.
So.
You know what, I'll talk to Stephen again. I've made friends with a girl downtown that's in the code enforcement division. She said the rules have been completely misinterpreted. There was a letter 2 years ago issued by the city to a number of contractors telling them to immediately stop planting live oaks in communities like ours. That has not been adhered to, but I have a copy of that letter. I'll see what I can.
But
put
right now, we
together.
have this in front of us,
Yeah.
and they need to be repaired, so I'll make.
You know
a-
what,
Well,
I
I would like to understand now, Scott, are you proposing that we go after the $3,900?
Yes.
Okay.
I would suggest we take those 2 live oaks that have caused that problem out. The root on that one goes out to the road already. I went and inspected where the big hump is. And that
Pelican
root is-
Reserve Boulevard?
Yeah, and that root is out, all the way out to the curb. They'll have to cut that out. That's gonna create a problem for that tree anyhow, and we may likely be taking it down later on.
So this proposal, the $3,000 proposal, covers just the stretch near Ravenna, or is it all three?
And all
three
areas,
Okay.
yes.
Ravenna entry.
There's 17 sections.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And, excuse me, just one moment. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna take the broken sidewalk out, they're gonna cut the roots?
Yes.
I might kill the
Okay.
tree.
Which
That might
is,
kill the tree.
I would
well,
say
I don't
we
know.
oughta- while
I
we're
don't know.
doing that, it's 2 trees, I think, that are causing the biggest amount of damage. Take them out, nobody will ever miss them. There's trees 10 feet away from them.
we can
Which 2
we can
trees are you
actually
talking
do
about?
this work and then go back to a tree
Sure,
company
yeah, sure.
and see what the cost would be to remove the trees. But this work would have to be done no matter what.
Sure.
Yes.
So,
When you go home tonight, just drive down Pelican Preserve and look at the cones where the 2
I'm
trees.
following
Well, I am,
Yeah.
so of the 2 trees you're referring to that should be taken out now, your recommendation?
yes.
Are they on Pelican Preserve Boulevard?
Yes, they
Those
are.
are the ones you're talking about?
No, they're on Pelican
Okay.
Preserve
All
Boulevard.
right.
They're the ones I've seen.
Yeah, the one thing I'm not sure of, Joe, is whether they're in the conservation area or
I doubt that they are.
not. I
They're
do not
very-
doubt it, because that's a whole conservation area where the.
Well, you know, you would know better than that too, but
I
they were
don't
planted.
think, I don't think we can touch them no matter what, but that's a.
Even if they
separate
were
issue.
planted by WCI.
It doesn't matter who did it, you
Okay.
can't go in there anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, we may have a problem.
They'll just die, and then we're okay.
Yeah, but say, cut the
They're
roots.
okay with removing them when they die.
Who has the
There you
salt
go.
and the copper nails?
Okay, so we have a motion to accept Scott's recommendation.
Yes.
To spend $3,900 and change to repair the 3 areas that need repair. Do we have a second to that motion?
Will you?
I'll make the motion.
Well,
I'll second it. I'll second the motion.
Bob made the motion.
Oh, I
Joe
second
seconds
it.
it.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
I don't know if this is for you or in general, but speed bumps have been put in our preserved pathway. When I say our, I mean CDD responsible, CDD maintains, CDD owns, or whatever, by a Lennar at the request of one of our communities. And I would really like to have an understanding of how that happened. That would be like my neighbor and I deciding to put a fence post in the middle of JetBlue Park. I mean, these people did something without the ownership. What they did in the stretch that Sienna owns, I don't care about.
They, Sienna, own that stretch.
For
of
that
the
stretch,
walkway.
I'm not talking about.
Oh, I'm
talking about the
sorry.
rest of it. I'm talking about the other two areas that they don't own,
Oh.
that they put bumps in.
I wasn't aware of that.
They own a small portion from Pelican Preserve Boulevard heading back towards them. They
Right.
do not own
Hooked
the
up to that
turns.
curve.
They do not own, they don't even own all the way up to the curve. You look at the line, it's a straight line goes through it. And they certainly don't own anything near the boardwalk entrance to the preserve. But yet there's a bump there. And I'm in a quandary as to how that happened without it coming through us. Now, on the other side of this, if they say it's theirs, I am all in favor of them taking it. And then they can take the $40,000 to repair the bridges. If they own it, they own it. If they don't, they don't. Excuse me, $157,000 to repair the bridges. But I'm baffled at how that happened. And I don't know if any of that came through you or not.
It did not.
It didn't. It didn't.
Certainly didn't come through here.
No, it didn't. It was just done.
It was Lennar and Sienna.
And Sienna.
Met many times over a long period of
I'm
time.
well aware of all that.
Came to an agreement and Lennar executed.
And how could they agree on something they don't have control of, is my question.
And I thought it was just that stretch that they quote unquote owned.
No, I wouldn't comment on that.
Because they, part of that, as I understand it, was they now turned over control of that section to Lennar
As part of
as
this.
part of that agreement. Okay, so the rest of it, I'm not.
I understand the background, I just don't know how it happened.
But this goes back to who owns that area at the
Well, we
beginning,
have the
remember?
bridges, do we have the sidewalks?
Yes,
We do.
Yes.
Do you know that?
yes, we have it all. It's written in the docs. It included the perimeter sidewalks and bridges. It absolutely did. Now, when that was done, Nancy, no one knew Sienna owned the other one. So I don't know if it's worth the paper it's written on, but that's the way it was written.
And where, do you know where this is?
I have seen it, so
Our guardian here of the, who owns what?
Oh, you're talking
John.
about John?
John?
Hello, John.
John,
Mr. Assets.
John, are you with us?
Oh, we lost him, or he got very quiet.
Yeah, because that's something I think for John to pursue.
But I think it should be looked at, that's all.
Yeah.
It's done, it's done.
John,
I'm here, yes.
Oh,
What do you
good.
want me to pursue?
we want you to pursue the fact that apparently, at least according to Mr. Geppert, and this has always been my understanding, although I never saw the document, that the responsibility for maintaining the sidewalk around the preserve as well as the boardwalk through the preserve rests with the CDD.
As of 2003, I think it could be 7. It's one
And he
of
says
them.
as of 2003 or could be 2007, and yet Lennar made this agreement with Sienna and then proceeded to put bumps on parts of the sidewalk that were not part of the Sienna property, but are part of the area that we have responsibility for, or apparently do.
I think the easiest thing is we should send a letter to Lennar.
Well, I know what they're gonna tell you, they said they did it because of Sienna. But here again.
I'm sure they did, because Sienna's been complaining
Right.
about that.
well, Sienna had no authority to bargain.
Correct. Well, they can complain, but Lennar couldn't build on property that's not theirs.
John, may we ask you to pursue this?
Do you want me to just put a letter together from
E-
the asset group?
either-
It's
Yeah.
on the PPAC meeting,
Yeah,
Lennar, take that bump out.
well.
I don't know you would
I-
go
I
that
would-
far yet, but.
My suggestion would be that you first pursue it with David Caldwell.
Get the understanding
Get
of why.
an understanding as to why they thought they had the power to do that.
And here's the crux of the issue, John. for the last 9 years, we have been cleaning and spraying the boardwalks going through the preserve. That has been our responsibility. Well, along with those boardwalks are all the pathways. It wasn't just the boardwalks, it was all the people conveyance and golf cart conveyance. So if that's ours, how can they go and build on our property without at least discussing it with us?
So,
I totally agree. Now, you made reference to 2008, a document.
Yeah, the transfer document, the date escapes me, but the specific area of that boardwalk and pathway in 2000, either 3 or 7, was conveyed to the CDD. I got it at home, God knows if I can find it. But those specific things were done. And we adjudicated this back those years because when we needed to clean the boardwalk, we wanted WCI to do it. And they said, oh no, that belongs to you.
Okay.
would you pursue that?
Yeah, I'll check with David first.
Okay, all righty.
Yeah, I think the simple thing was that Sienna probably said would like one there too.
I'm certain that that's what happened.
Yeah.
And David's gonna wash his hands and say, we just did it to satisfy Sienna,
Mhm.
And
Okay.
then they can take it out.
to satisfy us, right?
Well, the bumps are now blips.
Yeah, they're not much anymore, they've dropped them. They went from mountains to molehills.
Yeah.
But they're still there.
Right.
And-
How big an issue is it for us to pursue?
Well, it's big enough, Nancy, that the first effort in doing this, the residents avoided the bumps and rode into the conservation area.
But now they're blips, what are people doing?
Well, they were still
So
doing
we're
that.
doing it, now
So
they
now
put-
they
they put
installed
boulders.
plants and boulders.
And boulders.
They, I
sorry,
don't know, I
supposed to-
assume WCI.
WCI.
Someone has installed boulders and plants, but a nice resident rode over the plants in one of the spots. All the plants are flattened. So it is an irritant and it ought to at least be understood.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that we're gonna change anything, but John, if you would pursue it, maybe.
Is it one speed bump that is a issue right now?
No, 2.
I think
There's 2 or 3.
Well, there's
There's 3 bumps that I
One of,
think-
one of them is on Sienna's property.
Right.
And the other 2 are not. Or the property that formerly belonged to Sienna. And now, it still belongs to Sienna,
Yeah,
but
they
the
just
right
given
of
up-
way
the right,
belongs
yeah,
to,
they've given up control of it.
gave up control.
Now, if you want to go really go back, the reason that we were doing this beginning was we wanted Trieste Street to come straight.
Yes.
Oh,
We wanted to get rid of that.
I'm the
also.
one
And
that
I don't know if
started
we can now do that or not, but I mean.
Well,
That's another issue. that-
Presumably,
It's
Lennar has control of that section, and
Oh, yes.
Lennar can
Could
approve
do
that.
Could do that.
Presumably,
It's-
it's straightened
that-
out.
that is a-
Subject to all kinds of permitting.
Well,
And
forget about it, but I don't even think
You know?
Lennar has it. I think that's all part of the conservation area.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
I
say.
could be wrong, well, that's ours now. Lennar gave us all that, along with a $109,000 bill last November.
Okay.
But anyway,
Then let's
Okay.
straighten it out.
if we want to straighten it, we probably can.
Okay.
Can I go back to one thing?
Yeah.
Before Scott sits down on this sidewalk fixing? Would you check on the permitting for that? Because I know in one contract, I saw the fine clause that said $500 for permitting, not included in the quote.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're gonna have to pay that one way or the other.
That's right.
It'd be nice to know what the actual total is.
I will do that.
Thanks, Scott.
Any
You would
other?
not believe how many permits we buy and buy.